School itself has 200 students in pre-K through sixth grade and 40 to 50 staff members. We want to take a minute to acknowledge the victims. Evelyn Dickhouse, 9. Hallie Scruggs, 9. William Kinney, 9. Cynthia Peak, 61. Catherine Kunze, 60. We understand she was the head of the school. And Mike Hill, 61. In terms of actual hard facts, what I have told you is basically all we know. Chief Ralph Godbee of Detroit is with us, but we start with State Senator Heidi Campbell, who represents the area where the school is. It's nice to see you, ma'am. We appreciate it. Can you give us a little bit just about this school, about the neighborhood, how long it's existed, anything you can tell us?
Sure. This is a small school. It's a very supportive school. The community, I spent the whole entire day with the community as we were reuniting parents with their children, and was very moved by how supportive all of the families were of one another and how patient they were in what I thought was one of the most horrific days that they could have experienced. So, yeah. It was a tough day for them.
Yeah, I've been with more families on days like this than I care to remember, and it is awful in every possible way. How long has this school been around? Is this a middle-class neighborhood, upper-middle-class neighborhood? Is part of the huge move and expansion of Nashville? What's happened in this neighborhood? Give us a sense.
Yeah, this tends to be more of an upper class neighborhood, and this is, a very nice school. The congregation is probably more on the wealthy side. It's a religious school, and it's only K through 6, and a very small population. I think that this was, as we understand, a situation where a former student. This crime. Yeah.
So it's a religious school. Do we have any idea, or as you talk to people, whether or not it was targeted because of the religious aspect?
I don't know the answer to that, but I have to say that we always do this after shootings and try and figure out why shooters did what they did. And the fact of the matter is that it doesn't really matter what's in your heart or your head. What matters is what's in your hand. People have all kinds of issues in other countries, and we don't see these kinds of shootings. And that's because guns are way too accessible and available.
I understand that the debate always goes there. I mean, if we're going to talk about it, I would go back to the shooting last week in Denver, Colorado, where there was a young man who had to get patted down every day before he went to school. We couldn't agree to keep somebody that dangerous out of school. So there's a lot of different sides to this debate. But I just, in terms of the folks you talked to today, did they have any theories about why this person who was at least known to the school would have come back, somebody almost 20 years after they would have been too old to go there?
No, I didn't talk to any people who had theories about it because I was dealing with parents who were wondering if their child was alive.
Okay.
So no.
Tell us about those conversations.
I think that these parents were very concerned that it could have been their kid. It was, and one of the people in the congregation, we were sort of in a church that opened their doors to the parents. One of the people found out while we were in there that their child had been killed, and the primal scream that came from this person was something that I will never forget. What an absolute horror to find that out.
Yeah, I've heard those screams myself, and it is gut-wrenching and brings you to your knees when you hear it. There's just no other way to define it. Just in terms of what kind of school this is, it's a religious school. Is it associated with the church, any particular religion? Would it be seen as a sort of a super conservative, very religious school, or a little bit more like a school that would not be as sort of conservative in nature?
It's a very evangelical and far-right conservative school, and I know that their philosophies probably align very strongly with the far-right faction that is in control in our state.
Yeah, I'm interested in that. Just in terms of the state as it is, is become a very conservative state at the state legislature level. You're there, though, in Nashville, and you're a Democrat who represents this area. Is it sort of a conservative enclave within a relatively Democratic area in Nashville?
That's correct. Yes,
Okay.
there are pockets of conservative, hardcore, far right.
Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the red button to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.